You today, Mary?
Yeah. You got good?
Yeah, and
Good.
things felt like.
For Wednesday, for hump day? Hump day?
I
Midweek?
can't believe it's Thursday already.
Yeah, tomorrow, I was gonna say it's Thursday, that means. I didn't hear you say that tomorrow.
Retired life, eh? You're like, what do you believe this is?
Yeah.
Well, it's 6 o'clock, I guess we can get started, even though the boys is not here. Just, you give me the nod as soon as you have,
Okay, I'm going to put it on record.
good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, October 16th. I'll call the meeting to order. And I'll look for a mover and a seconder to open the meeting, moved by member Paquette. Seconded by member Langlois. That this meeting be opened at 6:01 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the agenda. So we have, I'll need a mover. Mover is member Paquette. I'll need a seconder. Member Borblinski. The agenda be as presented to the Planning Advisory Committee dated October 16th, 2024. Be adopted as prepared. All in favor? Carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. I do the adoption of the. I'll need a mover and a seconder to adopt the previous minutes. Moved by member Langlois. Seconded by member Roblinski. That the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee of July 18th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. So moving into presentations and delegations. Do we have any for this evening? No presentation delegations, okay. And number 6, consent applications. So B3 2024, 1937 South Shore Road lot addition for the Berry household. So this is a declaration of a public hearing. So take notice that the Planning Advisory Committee for the Township of Bonfield is holding a public meeting tonight, October 16th, 2024, to consider a proposed lot addition. 1, an application for the consent has been submitted under section 53(1) of the Planning Act for 1 lot addition from the property legally described as Bonfield Concession 5, Part Lot 1, RP 36R13499, Part 1, to the property legally described as Bonfield Concession 5, Part Lot 1, RP 36R13499, Part 2. The proposed severed and retained land will be an area and size as shown in the sketch attached here too. If a person or a public body that files an appeal of this decision for the Township of Bonfield in respect to the proposed consent does not make oral submission at this public meeting or has made a written submission to the Township of Bonfield before the proposed consent has been heard, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. Has any person or public body made a written submission to the Township of Bonfield?
No, they haven't.
No, they have not. Okay. Any person that is attending the public meeting shall be afforded an opportunity to make an oral representation in respect to the consent proposal. Is any person attending wish to make an oral presentation for consent file B3 2024? Barry? I believe Mr. Goodrich is here to do so, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the application before you this evening, the Berries own both sides of what we have here. They own the vacant lot that has frontage on South Shore Road to the west. Their house is located on the lot to the east, as is the garage. So you can see the thin lines that come up through the lot. That represents exactly where the driveway to the house and to the lake is. And what the thinking is here is they would like to have all of the driveway owned by themselves rather than having a right of way across the neighboring property. So we're looking to add this little piece. Should have brought one of my highlighters in, but we're looking to add this piece here. It's just under 2 acres in size, taken out of this lot and added to the house lot. And that still leaves 10.4 acres in the retained land and increases the size of the house lot to just over 12 acres. So they're both still nice big lots. There's still lots of room to get through west of the driveway, so that if this person wanted to access the north end of their lot, there's still 40-50 feet at least to be able to get through that area. And in any event, there's an unopened road allowance right next door anyways, but they can easily do it all within their own lands. So that's really all we're trying to do, is just keep the driveway together with the house. The one thing we would ask for is, it's now possible under the Planning Act to get a certificate of consent for the retained land, because these are owned by the same people, but they do have, you know, they do want the ability to be able to sell the retained land as a separate lot in the future, because it has severance consent on it. Once we break that original consent by taking a piece out, we no longer have the consent. So we don't want it to inadvertently merge and me to have to come back here next month and apply to sever it back out again. So we're asking that for a certificate of consent for both the lot addition, the retained land, and then as well, because I'm not sure if the original was the subject of the consent, but we would like to have a certificate of consent for the entire new piece of land being created, so that in the future it constitutes one whole lot, and the retained lot also constitutes a legally transferable lot.
So that certificate is going to go over both pieces of property?
That's correct. So it would describe both together, and that way in the future, that also merges it together just into a single lot. Because if there is a certificate of consent for this piece, of course, it wouldn't include that lot addition piece. So you could always transfer it out and have a little alienated 2-acre piece of land in the middle of nowhere without any road access. Not that anyone would do that intentionally, but well, you know what those lawyers are like. So no, but it just it's a way of keeping everything all together, and I believe it's now doable under the current versions of the Planning Act.
And that's part of the amendments to the Planning Act, that certificate of consent?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So that we have the consent on the entire piece, and we also have the consent on the retained.
so, that being a lot addition anyways, you couldn't do anything with that again, because that goes together with this lot, and,
Correct.
it's under section 50, you said, eh? That's lot addition, what's the section?
51 or 53 or
Oh, yeah.
somewhere along those areas, I believe. Yeah. But the certificates for the retained land is definitely new within the last few years anyway of the Planning Act. You never used to be able to get a certificate for the retained land, but it
No.
just made sense. And there were people that kind of got caught by it, so it was always, I always called the Planning Act the law of unintended consequences. Because everyone thought that it would create 2 lots, but sometimes, and I've dealt with it where the lands have merged back together again. Or they transferred out the retained first within the first year, which was allowed. But if they didn't perfect the actual severance, then they merged back together. But you've got 2 owners on the land, but it's legally, it's just one big piece. So with this new amendment to the act, I think it came in back in 2001, 2002, when that amendment came in. where we can get an issuance of a certificate for the retained land, it just makes a lot of sense.
That's a question on the application for severance is, do you want one?
Did I check it? I hope so.
You might still, well, then you wouldn't have to consolidate these two. Or would you still consolidate?
I would still consolidate them anyway, just in case.
Mhm.
Just, I would rather consolidate them and have separate certificates for each, just so that we definitely have two full lots. And I think the original, I think the original severance was to take off the westerly piece from the easterly piece. So there probably isn't a certificate on this piece now, but just in case, so.
Was there any restrictions when, like, did we look at the past severance that Longfield would have did? Like, because there's a number. So would we have looked at that to see if there was any restrictions back then when we gave consent?
We did not look at the past consent files on it. It's applied as a lot addition, so we're not looking to. As much as we're not making a new lot, we're just adding land from one to another, so it's not creating a new lot for development.
Yeah, you know, how
Right,
sometimes
yeah,
they still
sometimes
give a
they have
restriction.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Because
there are
we're
restrictions, yeah, no further lots to be created.
Created, and we're
Yeah.
adding a piece to it, so I was just wondering
Yeah,
if there was anything.
yeah, usually lot additions are exempt from the number of severances you can get.
Mhm,
Because we're not, as Nikki said, we're not creating a new buildable lot.
mhm.
We're just simply making a smaller lot bigger, but still leaving enough in the retained to meet all the standards of the zoning bylaw, which, you know, we greatly exceed.
I've just seen where it's something similar, we allowed something like this, and then somebody else came with a request and said, well, now we want to straighten the line.
Oh,
So I was just wondering,
as far as I know, that's not the
yeah,
the
but
plan.
it's just,
Yeah.
no, but these things
Yeah.
happen. Now,
I've
For
seen it
them-
where they'll apply to get a lot addition from the neighbor on whatever pretext. With the neighbor, and then they turn around and say, okay, well, now we have enough frontage, we can sever our lot in two, and the neighbor's going, well. I don't want the extra neighbor, I never would have sold it to you if I'd known that.
right,
So that I've seen happen, and you know, one neighbor kind of basically screw over the other guy. But
yeah. Whoops, and here, does that road leave anywhere, or does it just stop?
no, it leads down to the water.
Okay, just to the water,
Yeah,
it doesn't
just-
lead into any,
There's quite a steep drop
yeah,
from the top of the hill here down, which is why the road came out, so it could go on a more gradual slope to get
Mhm.
down to where the waterway is. And that was one of the reasons why it swung out and around so much.
right. And this person, like say if it was ever sold, they don't need access here to, you know, because of the geography or anything?
They still own all this. So
Yeah,
so
but
they
it's
can
still
yeah.
Usable?
Exactly, so they can still get out the same way that
To
the
that
driveway
end.
was here. They can put a driveway through as well.
And just, why do they want the whole loop and not like, this looks like the driveway goes to the house?
They also want to protect their access to the lake.
Okay,
Because without this, it's very difficult to get from here
Because of
down to
the
the
height.
lake.
okay.
Yeah.
And this piece, do they own that as well?
No, I believe that's a separate,
Oh.
that's been sold to an outside individual.
And that has its own access?
Way off of South Shore Road.
Yeah.
And that'll be the access to the retained land as well. They'll be able to put their own
Okay.
driveway in.
Okay, any other questions? Also looking at member Roblinski or Boise. No questions, good. Okay, so we'll just declare the public meeting closed. Okay, and I will get a mover and a seconder for recommending this to council. And mover by member Roblinski, seconded by member Boise. That the planning advisory committee recommend to council that the lot addition application B3. B3 2024 for 1937 South Shore Road for Mr. and Mrs. Berry be approved with a certificate of consent for the retained lands as well as one for the severed piece as the new lot into one parcel. Did I read that right?
Yes.
As the new lot into one parcel. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
It consolidates into one
Severed
parcel.
piece land as well as one. Lot severs into, do you want me to add that into the motion?
We're consolidating.
Consolidate.
Sorry,
Consolidate,
yeah.
better word.
Consolidate, okay, so. Well, as for one of the severed pieces, the new lot consolidated into one parcel.
Mhm.
Okay, does anybody need me to read the whole thing again, or are we comfortable?
So can I just? have
Yes, of course.
One more question. So that portion in there in that little area, but also part two is included in the severance, right? Because that is the roadway.
I knew I shouldn't have made that.
Part
crack
two,
about
it
lawyers.
says on the.
Yeah.
Glad-
Yes,
Part
it's,
two, so
it's,
that is included in the,
exactly, and in
Oh.
fact,
I just wanted to be sure.
they built the driveway, I had the other plan out, they built the driveway well after the first plan looked like. These are both done by Rick Miller.
Survey all that driveway, that would have been a lot of work.
Well, so this was the first plan, and then they built the driveway. And I think the original intent was, then they had Rick come back out and survey out the driveway. So then the plan looked like this. And I think the original intent was that they were going to do cross rights of way. So that this property would get a right of way over the first section of the road, part one. And that this property where the house is would get a right of way over part two. But this guy owns both sides and he got thinking about it and said, well, I'd rather just make sure I own the whole thing. If we sell this, they can put their own driveway in,
Yeah.
or in the future, we've already got the plan done. If we want to give them a right of way, we can. And you know, with severance, we'd have to come back for severance consent, or they can just put their own driveway in. So if it goes to one of their children perhaps, or a friend, then we may be back here to apply for a right of way.
But they could put a driveway in there like the land
Oh,
permits,
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments before I call the vote? All in favor? All right, it's carried.
Sorry, gentlemen, I forgot you guys can't see what's lying on the table. I should have held it up.
Thank you, Mr. Goodrich, appreciate you being here.
Welcome.
Did you want to take this opportunity to escape, or did you want?
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough.
Great seeing everybody.
Yeah, you too, yeah, that's fair. Always like to.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Goodrich.
Thank you.
I've been following along to the, on the paperwork. We have the email to us in advance.
Perfect. Good.
Thanks.
Or you'd be in trouble.
Thanks again, everyone. Good night.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you all.
You too, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we have number 7, referrals from council. So we have a report from CAO Kunkel on council, report to council on housekeeping zoning amendments. So would you like to review your report, give some high level?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's a quick report, but, so essentially, in the 18 months we've been here, we've had a number of reviews of the zoning bylaw. We've had members and residents come in and ask us questions, from the building and the planning department. And we know that we are doing the official plan and the zoning bylaw review. So the official plan is currently with the ministry. We've had no communication with them so far. A zoning bylaw will typically be, 1 to 2 years after the official plan is adopted, which I'm expecting at least another 12 to 18 months before that's approved by the province. So just in order to keep up with some of the trends and some of the questions that we're receiving now, I recommended to council that we do a housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment, which will allow us to create a policy, there's still a public process. It's a zoning bylaw, I think in the emails today I was explaining, there's still statutory notice requirements 20 days prior to us actually doing it. But I did, council did defer it to this committee to kind of draft up that bylaw, what does it look like, get some concept ideas. And then, our CBO, Mike, Pilon, as well as Simon and myself, we can certainly draft up a bylaw for the committee to review. So some of the, questions that we're getting are about additional dwelling units. So we've had a number of inquiries about, can I have a tiny home? Can I have, can I build an apartment above my garage, for my daughter or my mother to live in? And right now our policies don't allow for those. Secondary dwellings are allowed, but they have to be attached to the primary. A new trend, and with the changes in the policies for the planning act, they now allow for additional dwelling units, so that could be that. There's some municipalities who are doing as of right of 3 units and some are doing as of right of 4 units. But essentially what it looks like is there would be a house, you could still have a basement apartment or an addition off to the side as long as one wall still touches the primary, as well as one detached additional dwelling unit. And that could be, another building, like another house on the property or an apartment in a garage. Of course, all of it still has to meet building code, but it is quite popular and there's a lot of municipalities who are introducing additional dwelling units. It does create an affordable feature for the property owner as well as for whoever the tenant might be on that property. So we'd like to look at what does that look like? How does everybody feel? Map out a lot to see what it looks like. Another area that we have our accessory structure, storage structure. So the building code did change that you could now construct a 10 by 16 storage building. It's for storage only. It's not meant to have heat or plumbing in it. It's just meant for storage purposes. We do have that with our current zoning bylaw where you can build an accessory storage building while you're building a house. But we are still finding some hiccups with that, so this would certainly streamline that and help us solve some of the problems that the township are facing. Hunt camps, our zoning bylaw currently does not permit a hunt camp. We know that there are hunt camps, it makes sense that there are hunt camps in Bonfield, but our policies don't allow for it, so if we could incorporate that ahead of the, instead of waiting for 3 years. And then shipping containers, the sea containers are becoming another popular source of a storage building. So if the 8 by 20 essentially does, an 8 foot by 20 foot storage unit does essentially meet that 160 foot storage that you do not need a permit for. But then there are the 8 foot by, or the 10 by, I think they're 8 still, by 40, and they do require a permit. So we are seeing a lot more shipping containers introduced into the township. So what do those regulations look like if we want to allow them, then there are municipalities who make restrictions on it. They can only be in their rear yard. They have to be painted. I think that council has made it pretty well known that they want property standards and the community to take care of their property. So shipping containers, just much like accessory buildings, what do they look like and how do we regulate them? So those are the 4 main topics on the trends that we're seeing and the questions that we're getting from the office that we'd like to propose.
Okay, and just for clarity, has council scoped it to these 4 only, or is the housekeeping allowing for?
We could go back. So this was the report that I presented to council on the 4 items,
Yeah,
but those were the only 4 items I brought forward.
right. So, but if anybody on the committee wanted to consider any other housekeeping items, we could essentially make recommendations to council. It's up for council to.
Yes, before we delve into anything, I would go back to council
Right.
to say, can we also consider these items?
Okay.
If you have any on your mind.
So I guess that to say that if any of the committee members do have any other kind of housekeeping items that you would like to have brought forward for consideration, I would suggest that you be in touch with CEO Kunkel. Just to kind of have that initial conversation. And then whether or not it merits further conversation kind of at this table before going back to council. So I'll open it up for any questions or comments at this point, and then I'll just kind of clarify the process moving forward as to what to expect as a committee. Somebody,
Can I ask you about shipping containers? And I see it all the time where people live in those and the homes that they make. Is that anything, we're only talking about storage, right?
Right. So
But-
shipping containers can be used and it is approved in the building code. They are a building material. If you wanted to build it to live in, it has to be engineered and has to meet all of the building codes and you get a building permit for that. With some-
You know, where you see them pile them on top of one another and they.
Yeah,
How
it's a
did they- how
permitted
did they
use.
make this into, I didn't think that it would be, if that was something in our township, that's something that could be considered if somebody wanted to do that.
Yeah, it's permitted under the building code. So if somebody wanted to build a house out of straw, it's in the building code. So that's a permitted you can build the
I
material.
don't want to build one, but I just.
But yes, it is possible.
That's good.
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions or?
I thought should just introduce Simon to the public that are
Oh,
watching.
yes, sorry, yes, that's fair. I apologize. I mean, we've done this at council once before.
We forgot him already.
I know. So this is Simon, who's our new planning advisory staff, so adding great expertise and a wealth of knowledge into the municipality for us, so he's been a welcomed addition, so it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure working with you for how long, a couple weeks now, 3 weeks?
Yeah, about 3
Yes,
weeks,
yeah.
maybe a month-ish.
Yeah, for sure, so welcome aboard.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so I think I'll open it up for a bit of a discussion. My thought would be that a process that has worked well for us is we can get together again from a committee. Everyone can put some thoughts together as to what you're thinking about each of these 4 topics. And then we can just whiteboard it quickly to say, here's kind of our initial thoughts as a committee. Staff can go away, they can then kind of draft up a bylaw. Draft up a report, I guess, would it be? Yeah, I guess you'd write it in a bylaw format.
bylaw,
Yeah,
yeah.
bylaw format. To come back, once we as a committee agree that it's ready for council, then we can recommend it to council and it go to council for the approval. So, yeah.
I think
Yeah, for
Go ahead.
additional dwelling units, is there a minimum lot size? If you're gonna put a separate building on a lot, like I would think you'd need a pretty big lot to do that.
Yeah, so I've really unpacked this with our CBO, and he has a lot of knowledge on this, but so I originally didn't think that we would have a lot size in the hamlet that would be large enough to have a detached additional dwelling unit. But if we map out what that looks like, as long as they get septic approval from North Bay Mattawa Conservation, it is possible.
Okay.
Yeah, but and that's the thing that we have to bring back to the committee is, so do we also have a minimum size or a maximum size on what the detached additional dwelling looks like? Is it, and this has gone back and forth too, so I don't know how much you want me to elaborate, but the discussions that the 3 of us have already had are, so if you build a house, currently our minimum size for a building is 807 square feet or 75 meters. And if you have 870, you make your additional dwelling unit has to be smaller, or can it be larger? So originally, when we were first sitting down, we said, well, let's make them smaller and then say maybe the additional dwelling unit had to be a minimum size of 300 to a maximum size of 500. But then we thought, what if you're building a home as a young couple and you can only afford 807 square feet. But then there is enough property for you to be able to build a larger home so that, maybe you want the 1,200 or the 1,500 square foot home. And then maybe your parents are moving into the 807 square foot home. So limiting what the size requirements are, I have no idea what that is.
It's teams.
Yeah, limiting the size requirement excludes future development too, so we've had some very interesting conversations here in the office about what this all looks like. So I'm excited to see what you bring back for feedback as well, and we can certainly pose some of these questions and send them in an email. The three of us can sit down to, okay, here's what we've discussed already, what do you guys think? And just give you food for thought. North Bay has done an additional dwelling unit bylaw. There's a few others, there's Bruce Peninsula, and we can send you some of those examples of what others have done. Again, it's not we still have to think about what Onfield is, that we don't have water and sewer. It's all on private services, so definitely we've got some ideas that we can get that process started.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think if you could send some probing questions, and by no means does that limit what we would bring as individual members to the table, but those probing questions to get us thinking and kind of form some thoughts before we come back together. And yeah, any examples that you have of bylaws that are existing would be, I'm sure, helpful to read.
It's in the binder.
Oh, look at that, it's in a binder.
All, we're talking about additional dwelling units. What about adding to this one like tiny homes, separate?
Right, so tiny homes, I mean, you can certainly couple it in with additional dwelling units. And oddly enough, Simon and I just had a debate about tiny homes.
North Bay is looking
Just
for
moved last night.
400
They
square feet.
Yeah,
That's the bare minimum, right?
Yeah,
and there's other municipalities, in the building code, the bare minimum is 188 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then always leads into, I could go on forever on these things, but our discussion was, how do you have like, you have to meet all the requirements of the building code, but then how do you get septic and what does that look like? And are they allowed as a standalone, not a standalone? So there's lots to unpack with them, but you can also include them as additional dwelling units.
okay.
Well, and I would hate to speak on behalf of council, but I would say, I would think any thoughts the planning advisory committee meeting or committee would bring forward on that would be
Yeah.
welcomed by council. If you're gonna spend the time helping to shape some thought on that, that would be.
So was that at the council
Sure.
meeting last night? Did it, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see it, so I'm gonna
Okay.
kind of watch it back and then
Yeah.
download reports and digest it and
Yes.
look at other townships and as well and bring some
Down
feedback.
on Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
Development
Yeah,
of tiny homes.
Right.
And West Nipissing is considering as well.
See, I love them for the idea of a development on one piece of property. I'm not in love with the idea of a tiny home on a 100-acre parcel or a 50-acre parcel as a standalone. But as a development, I love the concept. But
Maybe they want to
there's
live,
not the same assessment, right?
and that's what it's gonna be all about is debating, because someone
Yes.
might
Yeah.
wanna do a tiny home on 50 acres because they're becoming a minimalist.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And then we just have to. the
Living
con-
off the land.
Yeah, for sure. And then the conversation just needs to be from a municipal perspective,
Yeah.
what makes sense, because now we're taking a 50-acre parcel
Mhm.
and allowing an assessment of, I don't know,
If
15
it
grand,
makes sense.
20 grand, 30, 100
But
grand
if the
versus.
trend is.
No, yeah, for sure.
For
It's
the
good.
north,
Yeah, it's good conversations to have.
yeah,
I was actually had the opportunity to attend a AMO, Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference on housing recently, and there was actually some really cool models of even dealing with homelessness, which doesn't necessarily super apply to a rural municipality, but some of the concepts that some of the larger municipalities have created, and it's that single lot and multiple small dwellings, but it's not even, wouldn't even be considered a dwelling, I think, because it's actually shared bathroom, shared kitchen outside of, but it was an interesting concept. There's some unique models being explored across the province, for sure.
times are changing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's not just for homeless, because there are people that, their children live with them and they can't get an apartment, they can't find an apartment.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
I
That's why I
think
really
that
like
there
the
is a
news.
crisis as far as this housing goes for sure.
Just the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and money.
Yeah, exactly.
Money to buy a home.
Okay, so I think the committee is willing to roll up our sleeves and dig into this for sure. How much time would you?
Are you into it?
Yeah, the whole
It's already
four,
back in there.
yeah. So, obviously, we're gonna ask you to send some questions our way. And then, we'll need just enough time to digest it, do a bit of research, come back together. So I'll look to the committee. How much time till we meet again, do you figure to kind of give some direction to staff or come to a conclusion? We'll book
I'm
few
pretty
hours.
good as long as I don't have a meeting somewhere.
a story of our life, isn't it?
My life is not exciting. To have a meeting,
At least 3 weeks if we
Okay.
want to do some research.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Okay, so we'll look to schedule a planning advisory committee meeting in 3 weeks.
Or whenever. it
Yeah,
There's no
goes with that.
council meeting in November, right? In the beginning of
And not at the
November?
beginning, yeah. I think we're gonna, yeah, there's none at the beginning.
Why couldn't we have it?
Or the
on
next
sure,
regular.
sure, good.
Yeah, we were talking about maybe having about a month's time.
Are you good with
Yeah.
that?
To kind of fall into our schedule.
That way we
Yeah.
could, we won't miss it.
Yeah,
Right.
and we'll just sit and we'll kind of whiteboard our thoughts and.
So because.
Do
First
we,
Tuesday, right?
yeah,
No,
first,
second Tuesday.
second Tuesday of the month, should we? I can get my phone to work, pick a date here.
November.
November, the. First, second would be the 12th of,
Well,
no, oh, yeah, 12th of
I
November,
would
is
just
that?
talk about trying to get back on a schedule, like every third or second or first.
So, and Simon was just mentioning, we do have 2 consent applications in the works right now, so we expect. We'll have we have 1 complete application right now.
Yeah,
And then the other one we expect by the end of the week,
yeah,
and then we need 20 days to give that notice.
right.
Yes.
So
So
looking more
if-
towards the end of November then.
Could we
Okay.
meet to have this discussion and those 2 consents at the same time?
so you want the first Tuesday, so no, we don't have a council meeting on the 12th.
So, or depending on the heavy lifting that this committee can do, if we can get, if we're all pretty close to aligned at the end of our kind of working session. If there's a bylaw that's drafted for consideration, we could maybe do the bylaw and those 2 at the end of November. It's a bit aggressive from staff, so I look at you and say,
Yeah.
Look at you.
there's a couple of pending things. Obviously, we'd have to come
Yeah.
to some sort of consensus as a group as to where we're going, drafting the bylaw, come back together.
Okay.
Debate that, and then if we have consensus, we'll pass a motion to send it to council. If we don't, we'll keep it at the committee level and hash it out until it's ready to go to council, so.
I think our hope. My hope would be that it's ready for. The second council meeting in June.
Oh, I think we'll be fine on that.
Okay.
I think we're all happy to meet and see what it was.
So the first, we're just gonna have a workshop before, a bylaws even drafted, correct?
Yeah, that's worked well for us in the past. It gives an opportunity for us to just kind of speak freely and openly and just kind of. Put thoughts on the table.
So that'll be the 5th of November.
Okay, we're gonna do the first of
November?
this. Second.
I'm not here, the 1st of November is a Friday.
Okay, that's the first Tuesday then, eh?
Do the first Tuesday.
We'll do the second.
Sorry,
It is the
Until
12th.
the 12th, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm not here on the 5th either, actually, sorry.
Yeah. it's hunting week, by the way, for the.
Yeah, I'm
first
like,
week of
if
November.
anybody's hunting, is not gonna be here.
Yeah,
Not here, so we probably want to do the second Tuesday.
Yes, please.
Okay, the second Tuesday.
Which is the
We'll
12th.
make an
Which is the
exception
12th.
for you, Jason.
November
Thank
12th.
you, your worship. It's gonna be the 12th.
November 12th.
sounds
I could
good.
call from the deer stand, but I might scare the deer away, but I'm talking.
Yeah, upload Zoom up and do it then.
That's when you know. you're gonna share it.
November 12th at 6 o'clock?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think 6 and plan for a couple hours because these things take a bit of time. So I don't know, one of us will make cookies. Simon. No.
Test your bacon.
Yeah.
So this is just a workshop for us to discuss.
Yes.
I'm wondering over the next few months. And I see there is a training.
Hmm.
One of the concerns I've had and we it's been ongoing. Is with respect to, if this was a workshop. And we just had the planning. Could we invite the rest of council to come and sit in the workshop? I'm going to say this. The final decisions on the severances is made by our council. And I know that some council members would like to be able to be more informed.
So I would say they're always welcome to come, whether they, I think for context, I think the heavy lifting needs to, like, council has delegated this to the committee to kind of formulate kind of our thoughts and then send it to, so I'd say I would encourage them to attend if they're interested from a context point of view. But I would say this is really a committee
Yeah.
conversation, but
If they sat in the
100%.
If they sat in, like,
Yeah,
if I went and sat into the fire department committee and I could sit there as long as I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't involve myself in the meeting at all, right?
any member of council, I think, can do that to any meeting, right? You can just sit and,
The mayor can, she's
The
the
mayor
only
can.
ex officio. Yes.
right,
But
But the other councilors cannot. But they can attend, it's a public meeting, so they can.
Yeah,
absolutely
so-
no, that's what I'm saying, they can
Yes.
attend and just not.
and
That's
it's a
just- Yeah,
workshop,
that's what I'm
right?
saying. Any
So
council can do that.
I just think it would be fair for the rest of council when they're making, that decision depends on them. Because there's only you and I or two.
Yeah,
And we need the other three council members, and if they're not comfortable with the knowledge that they have, I would like them to be included in our workshops, even just as a committee member or
And maybe more so in what we just discussed. That's why I like going through it thoroughly. Because it's good training for all of us when we do
Yeah,
these
for all of
application
us.
reviews. And we can see and somebody brings up a comment, so I like taking the time on them because
yeah, absolutely.
they're a good. It's almost like a training session as well, because everyone is different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And one,
workshop
one
for
thought.
training, same thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, we will make sure that council is aware, I mean, it's gonna get, but that council's aware of the meeting and
They're
know that they
invited.
are invited. And is it because you're hoping Steve makes cookies? Okay, so that is that. Under other business, we have the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing Training on the new provincial planning statement for 2024.
Yeah, I sent some details around by email for this, so it's just basically free training that's been offered by the ministry, so there should be details there if you want to register. It's kind of on demand, you sign up at your own discretion and yeah, go ahead, and I know you said you were interested. And after that, if anybody wants to touch base and talk about that further at a PAC meeting, what we learned, I'd be happy to talk about that too.
That's great.
And so where do we go to the training on the computer?
Yes, on the email that is sent, there should be some details on just how to register. It's a quick registration form.
Was it your 11 hours?
Oh boy, was it 11 hours? Oh my goodness.
Heard it was
Are you a certified police officer now?
Yeah, my computer kept quitting.
Oh,
At the end of one lesson, there was writing went all over the screen. I just shut it down and I left it that alone till the next day.
Sorry, I just have a question about the this course. I thought that the deadline was yesterday to register.
That indeed it was, yeah.
Yeah, there
Oh,
was
okay.
a, you can still register though, it'll just be on a first come, first serve after this, so they had a list and now after the 15th, I think that's when they're sending out. Connections for the people who registered by the 15th, so you can still register, you won't just get it at the same time. You won't get the link.
Okay, and is this like a one-shot course, so you sit through it online, or is it like live, or is it modularized where you do it as you on the side?
Not receiving details.
Yeah, we haven't received those details.
I'm
Just
interested,
find
but
out.
I just don't know if, if it's during the day or I guess I could just go through the link and find out.
I believe it's on demand, so it's whenever you go on, whenever you can go on.
Okay,
I don't know what the training entails yet.
So
thank
we'll
you.
be sent, like I'll be sent a link from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you've registered already, yeah.
But we all go on at the same time?
On demand.
On
whenever-
demand, yeah.
Oh, man, so it's not listening to me.
If you want in the middle of the night.
The public
Can't
page.
sleep, you know.
Is it all one training or do you go on and on?
We don't know.
It wasn't clear, yeah,
Yeah.
so
We don't know.
pretty sure it'll be standardized on recorded sessions and, but as soon as we get on it, we'll let you know.
Okay,
Okay, that's perfect.
there's no correspondence, correct? Right, there's no unfinished business, so we'll move for an adjournment. I need a mover and a seconder. To adjourn the meeting, moved by member Roblinski, seconded by. Everybody wants to stay in the meeting, member Foisey.
Nobody wants to.
Yeah, no, yeah, that this meeting be adjourned at 6:45 PM. All in favor? That's carried.
That's pretty fast. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Feel better soon.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going right to bed.
Good for you.